Class starts. JustProfessor here. The most persuasive arguments admit their own flaws. When you acknowledge weaknesses in your position, people trust you more and believe you more. But everyone does the opposite. They pretend their side is perfect and hide every flaw. This makes them less persuasive, not more. And you're probably making this mistake right now. Imagine two salespeople. The first tells you their product is perfect with zero downsides. The second tells you their product is great but admits it has one specific limitation. Which one do you trust more? Most people trust the second one because acknowledging a weakness makes them seem honest. This is the two-sided argument effect. Presenting both sides of an argument, including weaknesses and counter-arguments, actually makes you more persuasive than only presenting your side. But people instinctively hide weaknesses thinking it makes their argument stronger, when actually it makes them look biased and untrustworthy. The two-sided argument effect means that arguments acknowledging opposing viewpoints and limitations are more persuasive than arguments that only present one side. When you admit weaknesses or present counter-arguments before dismissing them, people see you as more credible, more honest, and more trustworthy. This makes your overall argument more convincing, even though you're literally pointing out problems with your own position. This happens because people are naturally skeptical. When you only present positives and hide negatives, people know you're being selective. They assume you're biased or hiding something. When you voluntarily acknowledge weaknesses, you seem fair and honest. You've acknowledged what they were already thinking, which makes them trust you to be telling the truth about the strengths too. Admitting flaws signals confidence. You're secure enough to be honest about limitations. The problem is, this feels completely wrong. Every instinct tells you to hide weaknesses and only emphasize strengths. You think admitting problems will undermine your argument. So you present pure, one-sided cases, which makes you seem biased and actually less persuasive. Meanwhile, people who understand the two-sided argument effect admit weaknesses strategically and become more influential because of it. Let me show you where this matters. Sales and marketing use two-sided arguments effectively. A company that admits our product costs more, but here's why it's worth it, is more persuasive than one claiming to be perfect at everything. The admission of higher cost makes them seem honest, which makes their quality claims more believable. Luxury brands do this. They don't hide being expensive, they explain why the price is justified. This honesty about one weakness makes their strengths more credible. Job interviews benefit from two-sided approach. When asked about weaknesses, candidates who admit real limitations but explain how they're working on them seem more self-aware and honest than candidates who give fake weaknesses like, "I work too hard." The admission of genuine weakness makes their claimed strengths more believable because you're not presenting yourself as perfect, which everyone knows is false. Political debates show this clearly. Politicians who acknowledge valid concerns from the other side before explaining why their position is still better come across as more reasonable and trustworthy. Politicians who pretend the other side has no valid points at all seem partisan and biased. The two-sided approach of, yes, they're right about X, but here's why Y matters more, is more persuasive than, they're completely wrong about everything. Product reviews are more trusted when they're two-sided. A review that says, "This product is amazing at everything," seems fake or paid for. A review that says, "This product is excellent at A and B, but weak at C," seems honest and trustworthy. Consumers believe the two-sided review more and are more likely to buy based on it because the admission of weakness signals genuine honesty about the strengths. Academic arguments use two-sided structure effectively. Good papers acknowledge limitations and alternative explanations before explaining why their conclusion is still valid. This makes the research more credible than papers that ignore counter-evidence or pretend no alternative explanations exist. Admitting uncertainty and limitations makes the core claims more trustworthy. Parenting and teaching benefit from two-sided approaches. When telling kids not to do something, Acknowledging why they might want to do it before explaining why they shouldn't makes you more credible. I know you want to stay up late because it's fun, but here's why bedtime matters is more persuasive than just go to bed because I said so. The acknowledgement shows you understand their perspective, which makes them more willing to accept yours. Negotiations work better with two-sided arguments. When proposing a deal, acknowledging a downside of your proposal before explaining why it's still the best option makes you seem fair and builds trust. If you only present upsides, the other party spends their energy thinking of downsides and becomes skeptical. If you acknowledge downsides first, you've addressed their concerns, and they can focus on considering your reasoning. Advertising sometimes uses this strategically. Rental car company Avis famously advertised, "We're number 2, so we try harder." Admitting they weren't the biggest made them seem honest, and the "try harder" claim became more believable because of that honesty. One-sided, "We're the best" advertising is less persuasive than two-sided, "We have this limitation, but here's our advantage" messaging. So, how do you use two-sided arguments effectively? How do you admit weaknesses without undermining yourself? First, acknowledge legitimate weaknesses or counter-arguments early. Don't wait for others to bring them up. Raise them yourself and address them. This shows you've thought carefully about your position and you're being honest. It takes the weakness off the table as something for opponents to discover and makes you look fair-minded. Second, be selective about which weaknesses to admit. Two-sided doesn't mean admitting every possible flaw. Choose weaknesses that are minor or easily addressed. Acknowledge them, then explain why they don't outweigh your strengths. Don't admit major deal-breaking weaknesses that genuinely undermine your position. The strategy is acknowledging small weaknesses to build credibility for your main points. Third, use the yes, but structure. Yes, my solution costs more, but the long-term savings make it worthwhile. Yes, this approach has risks, but the benefits outweigh them. Acknowledge the weakness, then refocus on why your position is still superior. The acknowledgement builds trust. The "but" brings attention back to your strengths. Fourth, address the strongest counter-argument. Don't just acknowledge weak objections. Take on the best argument against your position and explain why you still believe your position is correct despite that concern. This makes you look confident and thorough rather than cherry-picking easy criticisms. Fifth, be genuine. Two-sided arguments only work if the admission seems honest. If you acknowledge a fake weakness or a weakness you don't actually believe matters, people can tell and it backfires. Admit real limitations you genuinely recognize, then honestly explain why you think the strengths outweigh them. Sixth, time it strategically. For sophisticated audiences, acknowledge weaknesses early to build credibility. For less engaged audiences who might only remember the first thing you say, lead with strengths and address weaknesses after you've made your case. Know your audience and adjust timing. The two-sided argument effect means admitting weaknesses makes you more persuasive, not less. When you acknowledge limitations and counter-arguments while still maintaining your position, you seem fair, honest, and trustworthy. This credibility makes your overall argument more convincing than pure one-sided advocacy that pretends no weaknesses exist. Most people do the opposite. They hide every flaw, dismiss all counter-arguments, and present their position as perfect. This makes them seem biased and untrustworthy. Audiences mentally poke holes in one-sided arguments because they know nothing is perfect. Two-sided arguments address those holes preemptively, which satisfies skepticism and allows focus on your strengths. Understanding this effect changes how you argue, persuade, sell, and present ideas. Instead of hiding weaknesses, you strategically admit them to build credibility. Instead of ignoring counter-arguments, you address them to seem fair-minded. The admission of imperfection makes your claims of strength more believable. The next time you're trying to persuade someone, resist the instinct to present a one-sided perfect case. Acknowledge a genuine weakness. Address the strongest objection. Admit a limitation. Then explain why your position is still the best despite these acknowledged concerns. You'll find people trust you more and believe you more because you were honest enough to admit what everyone already suspected. Nothing is perfect, but your option is still the best choice. Subscribe to learn more communication strategies that actually make you more persuasive.